Don't call it a comeback. Shacknews has been here for years, deliberating nominations for Game of the Year 2022. And we're back with yet another one. This time, it's the best comeback of 2022. These are franchises, games, things within the realm of our coverage and the industry that just, they've been around for a while, but this year they really hit the ground running and made a massive comeback. We have a few different nominations this year. So why don't we just get right down to the nitty gritty? Ooh, yeah. Who had the best comeback of 2022? Let's see.
I'll
Why
start.
don't we start with you, Greg?
So yeah, I mean, Shredder's Revenge I think was awesome. Coming off of Streets of Rage, I knew that it was going to be good, but I didn't know how it was going to be good. And having that game release and watching people of all ages, of all generations enjoy them together was just it was such a heartwarming moment for me. Like I saw my friend playing with his kids. The same games that the same type of game he played when he was that age, together enjoying it the same way, and also like the way they've just managed to somehow improve that formula of the beat 'em up. Like they learned a lot from Streets of Rage. TJ, you love that game. They learned a lot from that game, and they were able to make it more expansive, more deep, more entertaining than just jump, special attack, and melee. Like they were able to actually expand it more, and it's just such a beautiful game as well. Like everything looks great. It's all pixel arty. Some people were complaining about the pixel art on their like 8K TVs, and I'm just like, what? But I thought it was a great game, like similar to Kirby, like great for all ages, and just watching generations like all enjoy it, old, young, medium. It was great.
I
Yeah,
want to just add on to that, Greg, because like my thoughts really just kind of feed off of what you're saying. Yeah, I used to be like a huge fan of the Ninja Turtles in basically any form that I could consume Ninja Turtle content when I was a kid, and I went through a long period of time of really not caring about the Ninja Turtles because honestly, I didn't really find something that I thought was like overly worthy of caring about. So for me, it was a literal comeback into my interest, right? Like my interest was reignited after years of being dormant, because there was like quality to consume. And I know there's been other Ninja Turtle stuff, like obviously, like all the time over the last while, but this was the first time that something like really resonated with me. Um, was Shredder's Revenge. Shredder's Revenge was definitely the leading catalyst with that, but like overall, the Ninja Turtles in general. Um,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak to Greg's pick and just like kind of expand that whole thing to just the Ninja Turtles in general. I mean, there was a day when that was like probably one of the biggest third party gaming licenses out there, and we hadn't really seen it so much over like the last maybe throughout the 21st century. We didn't really see a lot of like Grand Turtles presence, but there was a day when they were bigger than just about any other game out there, and we saw it with the release of the Cowabunga collection this year. That kind of took us back into that time capsule, back into that age of like the late 80s, early 90s, and just how long the Turtles dominated. And just to see Shredder's Revenge come out and kind of bring back that nostalgia and show that it still holds up. You just got to give it a few modern bells and whistles, but it still holds up. Uh, and you have the Cowabunga collection to remind us of what Turtles was, and that a lot of those games still hold up today. And you're even seeing like Turtles make cameos. Like Knockout City had it's season 7. Its big thing was you can be the Turtles from the 80s, and you can equip them with like a lot of the 80s TV show emotes and all that kind of stuff. So we're seeing more Turtles presence now
Dude.
than ever, and it's a trend that I hope to see continue throughout the years because gaming is better with the Turtles in it.
Dude, they were in Brawlhalla too.
That's right. I forgot
And
about the Brawlhalla update.
weren't they Injustice? This was a few years ago, but Injustice 2 as well, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember that was
Final
such a big
DLC,
deal at
yeah.
the time.
Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing about the Turtles, kind of like Bill, like as a kid, I went from Thundercats into Ninja Turtles, and the Ninja Turtles goes through this cycle where a new show will come out, and then there'll be a new toy line, a new movie, and then it'll kind of go moribund again, and then a new show will come out, and there'll be a new movie, and then it'll go moribund again. But video games, speaking to Ozzy's point, video games for a long time felt like Ninja Turtles games felt like they were of a time and a place. They really kind of crescendoed in the 16-bit era. There were 3D Turtles games, but they weren't in the Cowabunga collection for a reason. They were very mediocre or bad and just ultimately forgettable. So that's why my vote this year isn't just for Shredder's Revenge or the Cowabunga collection, but for Ninja Turtles in general making a huge comeback in video games. They weren't even, I don't know that you could really even say like they were down. Like people had just kind of forgotten about them. And then with the Cowabunga collection after Shredder's Revenge, you were reminded that this license, these characters, this world, this type of game can still be great. And also, here's a reminder of how great it was way back when. And it was this really nice kind of bookend. And I just want more Turtles now.
It's a 1-2 combo. It's like here's like you can if you know we're old now. A lot of people our age have kids, and you could kind of be like, here's like the original arcade games I used to play as a kid that are the Ninja Turtle ones, and then you're like, check out this new one that we can like play through together for the first time. That's a big like generational connection right there.
It definitely, and like the Shredder's Revenge too. You know, Greg and Ozzy mentioned this, but it wasn't just like, hey, remember Turtles in Time? Here's that, but with some different levels. Like they took it from 4 players to 6. They you know focused on fan wish fulfillment by making, pardon me, April, Splinter, and Casey Jones playable. They really evolved the formula so that it wasn't just so many properties today are just nostalgia. Like, hey, this is old, so like it. But Shredder's Revenge was this, it felt fresh while built on a foundation of classic gameplay and characters.
Turtles has been on the rise in pop culture in general over the last decade, going all the way back to like the animated series on Nickelodeon back in 2012.
It was great.
And we had yet to experience that in gaming until this year, and it came back in a big way.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's the classic Turtles that came back to gaming. Like the Shredder's Revenge is based off of the original animated series, and all of the Cowabunga collection is all based off of that original animated series or those original arcade games.
The Knockout City cameo was the '80s Turtles.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. People prefer classic Turtles, but you know, speaking of Rise, I actually watched Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles this year. And it's a real different take on the Turtles, but I think it goes to show like how viable it is, and like it's a franchise that hasn't changed much. Like the Turtles are basically still teenage dudes, but it's I don't know. It still resonates. It's just like the Turtles themselves are a great concept. The world that they have is fantastic, and it's cool to see this franchise going years and years and years later when I should be totally over it and have grown up by now. But hell no, Cowabunga.
This is something that it probably lends itself to a different conversation. But I wonder if in 10 years we're going to see a Turtles game like we're seeing now, but based on like the 2012 Turtles or on the rise of the Turtles. Like because you could totally make those into these types of games.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'd be curious to see that as well. I think if they're smart, they'll take a note from the Cowabunga collection and Shredder's Revenge, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Basically, there we go. We have a few other nominations to get to, so let's keep going down the line. Morgan, why don't we do your nomination? Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah, I nominated Sonic Frontiers for Best Comeback just because I feel like the game really exceeded at least my personal expectations, but I feel like a lot of people's expectations. I think that it just gets in a previous category, but like marketing wise, I don't think the game was marketed very well. And I think that, I don't know, I really was impressed by it, and it was the standout for me. Yeah.
To Morgan's point, like there's been a lot of Sonic games, and like I don't care what any fan base says, they're all pretty divisive. Like the Unleashed one was not a good game. It had good ideas, like it had some really interesting ideas, but it was not a good game, right? And people always fight over that, the community, and it's always very loud. So when a 3D Sonic game comes out and it's universally liked, that's a really big deal. Like a really big deal, especially when it's not like a 2D remake, right? When it's not Mania or what's the other one, Origins, right? Like when it's not like the classic Sonic, when it's always divisive in the community. I spent time in the Reddit when I did the Sonic Frontiers videos. I've seen the community. I know how divisive they are about 3D Sonic games, and it's really cool to see that one be so widely accepted and critically acclaimed across like old, new gamers alike.
Very true. It did feel like a lot like Sonic Adventure, which I really appreciated because that was like peak 3D Sonic at the time. So yeah, I think they expanded that formula, but also found ways to innovate and make a 3D Sonic for a modern generation. Finally. All right. Well, the great nomination. Let's keep going down the line, shall we? Who is up next? Ooh, let's see. TJ,
Yeah.
your nomination is quite curious.
Battlefield 2042 was a stinker when it came out. Like a full-blown, rotten, just like it's unacceptable that EA and DICE ever put it out in the state that it was. But they've been working at it since. They've been putting time in, listening to the community, very closely trying to implement what the community has been asking for. And like more than a year later, I finally went back to it, and my mind was blown by how much it has improved over what we saw when it first came out. Like the performance issues, they at least on PC for me when I played it, they cut it down to like I think I only saw like one silly ragdoll glitch during my time playing. And I love silly ragdoll things anyway, so that didn't really bother me that much. But the gunplay feels wonderful, like well implemented. The destructibility in the environment is fun. The weapons, the specialists, and they're finally bringing classes back alongside the specialists. So now, in addition to playing characters that have like either a recon or an aggression or a defensive niche, you can also queue up as commando, medic, engineer, sniper, and build kits around those classic classes. And it just it was the closest I've been to feeling like I was playing something I had as much fun with as Bad Company 2 since Bad Company 2. Um, just an incredible like turnaround over the course of the year. And I still lament that game should never have come out in the state that it did, but I'm happy to see that they finally nailed down what they needed to fix about it.
So I have some thoughts on this. I actually think that Battlefield doesn't belong in this category because to me that falls under most improved. Because when we're looking at the Battlefield franchise, and I was just checking myself, it hasn't gone anywhere. Battlefield 3 was 2011. That was a massive release. Battlefield 4 was 2013. That was a massive release. Battlefield Hardline was at least a big release, even though it didn't land well. Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5. Battlefield 1 was 2016. Battlefield 5 was 2018. I don't really feel like it's a comeback. I guess like I understand the spirit of that, but I think that the way that our awards are set up, it feels like it would be something that you would put into most improved, because the conversation around Battlefield and Battlefield's presence in the space hasn't gone anywhere. They've been in the space even when they had the terrible launch in 2042. We were writing about it, we were covering it, and we covered it all through this year as they released updates and they improved it. So I don't really feel like they've come back from something necessarily. I get the spirit of that, but I think it's just that like it's a more of a most improved thing. Although I can say if I felt differently, I mean Battlefield's one of my main loves in gaming, and I would take the excuse to vote for Battlefield if I could, but I don't think it fits.
God, I hated Hardline so much.
I would argue for its state as a comeback because of the way that the game industry moves. Like 1 year in video game years is like a decade. People move on so quickly. And I think a lot of people, myself included, were ready to just throw 2042 in the trash and move on with our lives. And
You are correct, but that would also mean that Ninja Turtles has been coming back from a 350-year absence.
Yeah, I do see what you mean, TJ, but I think to Bill's point, it feels like the game was like I can see how it's a comeback, but I think it's a little bit of both, but more best improved. Obviously, this is subjective, but I get your point and I get Bill's as well.
Fair. And and I think ultimately, like, because I do want to speak to this other nomination. It's not mine, but the more I think about it, the more I realize, man, that was really important in the context of itself. Let's talk about Evo 2022.
Yeah, this is Asif's nomination, by the way.
This was, and I attended Evo 2022 this year. I covered it thoroughly, like both as a player and as a journalist, and like being able to be both on the floor with the people and behind the scenes. The fighting game community needed this one to succeed. Like, I don't think, of course, the fighting game community would be around if Evo 2022 failed, but like, to see everyone in person coming back to the physical event this year, to see the safety precautions that PlayStation and the Evo organizers put in play to make sure that everybody had a safe and fun and organized time. Um, to see just like how many happy faces there were and how many people I talked to that were just like their first thought was like it feels unreal to be here again, to be playing with other people again. There's a magic about Evo when it works that is, I would say, almost unreplaceable. And Evo 2022 came back after like 2 years of online only competition, which thank goodness they kept the flame going for those online competitions, but they weren't the same. Evo isn't just about competition, it's about community. It's about getting together. It's about throwing down together and celebrating a love of fighting games. And it could have been better in terms of certain things like advertising. I think that's something that they have to figure out as things go along. But as far as a new first chapter of Evo goes, this was the right foot to start off with on so many levels, and it brought Evo back in a way that like I can't even begin to describe just how magical it felt to be there this year.
Yeah, it really came back hard after. I mean, yeah, COVID killed a lot of events like Evo, and it seemed like it might be another rough year for it. But I think as far as like in-person events goes, it was one of the most successful, and some incredible stories came out of it this year too, as well. Right, TJ?
For sure. We saw Umi Show come out of nowhere and win Guilty Gear Strive. We saw this was the year that all of the games that you wanted to have rollback got rollback, or at least like if they didn't get it, it got announced that it's in the works. And like just the sheer amount of reveals and camaraderie and people coming out on top, like success stories of like players that have come from all over the world to one place to throw down and make it happen. Like I've seen people like Arslan Ash. I get to see people like Arslan Ash compete in Tekken once a year, and if I'm lucky, and it is so incredible to see. Like this is one of the only places where you're going to see Arslan Ash from Pakistan throw down against Knee from South Korea in one place with everybody watching from around the world. This is one of the few times you'll get to see things like Idom taking a set off of Daigo freaking Umahara while the while the an arena is cheering USA USA in the background. It's wild. It's and the energy was so electric throughout the whole thing.
So GJ, I do have a question because 2 years ago Sony bought Evo. Did that affect like the events in like a gameplay in like a game offer way or like in an event way? Like, did it have any negative connotations? Because that's what people were assuming it would happen in when after they bought it. I'm just curious if there that did happen.
Well, for one thing, Smash wasn't there this year, and that was something that people are always going to question it when Smash isn't involved. But like, a part of that was that during the online period, nobody wanted to rely on Smash's netcode in an online tournament. However, advertising is still something they need to find a balance on, because a lot of the events ran pretty long because of like 10-minute advertising breaks in between major matches, which you can't have that. Nobody wants to sit around for 10 minutes after every major match watching the same commercials they've seen all weekend. So that's something that it's growing pains. This is the first year back for this. It's a new owner. It's a lot of different new foundational things in play. And I think that over time they're going to work these things out. But for a starting step, they did a very good job.
I think I got to agree with that. It's hopefully just a sign of better things to come overall. And it was literally a comeback too. Like, yeah, Evo had not been around for a little bit. And so it was nice to see it get back. And with that, I believe that is all of our nominations. Unless somebody wants to call me a liar. All right. Nobody's calling me a liar. And I think
I was
that
going to
means
call you a liar, but not about that. I was just going to call you a liar.
order. Order. I will have order. You know what, Bill? Just for that, you get the first vote.
I will go ahead and vote for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh man. I own too many Ninja Turtle toys to not vote for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'm afraid. They get my vote as well. Steve T.
TJ almost sold me on Evo, but I gotta go with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Heroes in a Half Shell. David.
This is tough. Turtles coming back to video games was a big deal. I'm also of the opinion that maybe there are more bad Sonic games than good, and Sonic Frontiers was a really good one.
You
My
get
heart
one
lies.
pass.
I'm not going to use it though. I'm going to stay the course. My heart lies with the Turtles, but I got to vote for Sonic. I think the fact that Sonic Frontiers is good is kind of what that franchise needed.
All right. Donovan.
I'll go with Sonic.
Oh. Order. I just realized we forgot. Denny put Cyberpunk 2077 as his best comeback.
Most
Bill,
improved, right?
yeah, I can see most improved. Best comeback though.
I mean, I don't know that I would personally put it in the same kind of, like, I think of it the same way as I kind of think of Battlefield. I don't know that it's a comeback so much as most improved. I mean, I think you could argue maybe it's a little bit more related to the show. So like maybe, but yeah, I don't know.
It's only been a year too, right?
Well, Cyberpunk came out in, what was that? 2020?
Couple years. All right, it's only been a couple years. Cyberpunk hasn't had enough time to go away for it to be a comeback, and I don't think Denny's changing anyone's minds at this point. But yeah, I'm sorry, Donovan. Back to you.
Sonic was my vote.
Sonic.
Greg.
Oh man, that's tough. Like, Turtles, Sonic, Turtles, Sonic.
Which of your? What? I mean, they both raised us. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to pick between which parent you want to go live with, Greg. Do you want to live with Sonic and eat chili dogs all day? Do you want to live with the Turtles and party and eat pizza with weird shit on it all night?
I'm gonna die on another hill for Turtles, so I'll say Sonic. I'll change my mind to Sonic.
All right. As long as you're dying on a hill, that's what's important. TJ.
Evo.
Evo. Good pick. Ozzy.
Turtles.
Turtles. For Ozzy. You like Turtles, Ozzy?
I do like Turtles.
All right. Morgan. What?
Oop. Oh, there we go. Sonic. It goes Sonic.
Sonic the Hang-Hong. All right. And I know that Asif voted
The
for
what?
Evo.
The what?
Sonic the Hang-Hong. All
I mean,
right.
crossover we didn't know we needed until just now.
Yeah.
All right.
Hang on. That's
All
funny.
right.
I don't know what that means, but it's
neither do
funny.
I.
It's funny.
It's just a mispronunciation. That's all. That's
Okay.
really it. All right. And Austin voted for Evo 2022. Denny voted for Cyberpunk. And I'm gonna have to look up Sam Chandler's vote as well really quickly here. Sam, in what could be the deciding vote, and it is Sam voted for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because they're totally cowabunga to the max. Splinter taught them to be ninja teens, and like all that training from a radical rap paid off because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles get the best comeback of 2022.